The history of France. The history of France is a long and complex narrative, shaped by geography, conquest, cultural exchange, political experimentation, and social transformation. Situated at the crossroads of Northern and Southern Europe, France has been influenced by Mediterranean, Atlantic, Germanic, and Latin civilizations. Over more than 2 millennia, it evolved from a collection of tribal territories into one of the world's most influential nation-states, playing a decisive role in European politics, global exploration, revolutionary ideology, and modern democratic governance. Before the emergence of France as a political entity, the region known as Gaul was inhabited by Celtic tribes. These tribes, commonly referred to as the Gauls, lived in fortified settlements and practiced agriculture, metalworking, and trade. Although politically fragmented, they shared cultural and linguistic similarities. Their independence ended in the 1st century BCE when Julius Caesar led Roman legions in a series of military campaigns known as the Gallic Wars. By 51 BCE, Gaul had been fully incorporated into the Roman Republic, marking a turning point in the region's history. Under Roman rule, Gaul underwent profound transformation. Roman administration introduced roads, cities, aqueducts, and a legal system that integrated the territory into a wider imperial economy. Latin gradually replaced Celtic languages, forming the basis of modern French. Christianity spread throughout Gaul during the later Roman Empire, becoming increasingly influential after the legalization of the religion in the 4th century. Even after Rome's political authority weakened, Roman culture, law, and infrastructure left a durable imprint on the region. The collapse of Roman power in Western Europe during the 5th century opened the way for Germanic invasions. Among the invading groups, the Franks proved decisive. Under the leadership of King Clovis I, the Franks consolidated control over much of Gaul. Clovis's conversion to Christianity around 496 CE was a pivotal event, aligning the Frankish monarchy with the Roman Catholic Church and securing support from the Gallo-Roman population. This alliance laid the foundations of medieval French kingship and established Paris as a political center. The Frankish kingdom reached its height under the Carolingian dynasty, particularly during the reign of Charlemagne in the late 8th and early 9th centuries. Crowned emperor of the Romans in 800 CE, Charlemagne ruled a vast empire that included much of Western and Central Europe. His reign promoted administrative reform, education, and religious standardization in what became known as the Carolingian Renaissance. However, the empire proved difficult to govern and was divided among his heirs after his death. The Treaty of Verdun in 843 formally split the Carolingian Empire into 3 parts. The western portion, known as West Francia, gradually evolved into what would become France. During the following centuries, royal authority was weak and power was fragmented among feudal lords. Society was organized around a feudal system in which land was exchanged for military service, and loyalty was personal rather than institutional. The Capetian dynasty, beginning with Hugh Capet in 987, slowly strengthened royal authority through alliances, inheritance, and conquest. Throughout the High Middle Ages, French kings worked to consolidate power and expand their territory. The monarchy benefited from its close relationship with the church and from the growth of towns and commerce. Gothic architecture flourished, producing monumental cathedrals such as
Notre-Dame de Paris.
At the same time, France became deeply involved in European conflicts, most notably the Crusades, which reinforced royal prestige but also strained resources. One of the defining conflicts of medieval French history was the Hundred Years' War, 1337 to 1453, between France and England. Sparked by dynastic claims and territorial disputes, the war devastated large parts of France and contributed to social unrest and economic decline. Despite early English victories, the French ultimately prevailed, aided by figures such as Joan of Arc, whose leadership galvanized French resistance. The war strengthened national identity and significantly increased the power of the French monarchy. The late medieval period gave way to the Renaissance, which brought cultural and intellectual renewal. French kings such as Francis I patronized artists, architects, and scholars, importing Renaissance ideals from Italy. The French language gained prestige, replacing Latin in administration and literature. However, this era was also marked by deep religious conflict. The Reformation divided French society, leading to the wars of religion between Catholics and Huguenots during the 16th century. These conflicts culminated in events such as the St. Bartholomew's Day massacre of 1572, in which thousands of Protestants were killed. Stability was restored only with the accession of Henry IV, who converted to Catholicism and issued the Edict of Nantes in 1598, granting limited religious toleration. His reign marked the beginning of renewed royal authority and economic recovery, setting the stage for absolutism. The 17th century witnessed the rise of absolute monarchy under kings such as Louis XIII and, most famously, Louis XIV. Guided by powerful ministers like Cardinal Richelieu, the monarchy's centralized power weakened the nobility and expanded state administration. Louis XIV, the Sun King, embodied absolutism, ruling from the lavish palace of Versailles and asserting that royal authority derived directly from God. France became Europe's dominant military and cultural power during his reign. Despite its grandeur, absolutism imposed heavy burdens on the population. Continuous warfare, high taxation, and social inequality created widespread hardship. The revocation of the Edict of Nantes in 1685 drove many skilled Protestants into exile, harming the economy. While France remained powerful, structural problems accumulated beneath the surface, particularly in finance and governance. The 18th century, known as the Enlightenment, brought new intellectual challenges to traditional authority. French philosophers such as Voltaire, Rousseau, and Montesquieu criticized absolutism, religious intolerance, and social privilege. Their ideas about liberty, equality, and sovereignty spread widely and influenced political thought across Europe and the Atlantic world. At the same time, France faced mounting debt from wars and an inefficient tax system that placed the heaviest burden on the lower classes. These tensions exploded in 1789 with the outbreak of the French Revolution, triggered by a fiscal crisis and political deadlock. The revolution quickly transformed into a radical restructuring of French society. The Estates General was replaced by the National Assembly, feudal privileges were abolished, and the Declaration of the Rights of Man and of the Citizen proclaimed universal principles of freedom and equality. The monarchy was overthrown, and King Louis XVI was executed in 1793. The revolution entered a violent phase known as the Reign of Terror, during which thousands were executed in the name of revolutionary purity. Political instability continued until the rise of Napoleon Bonaparte, a talented military leader who seized power in 1799. In 1804, Napoleon crowned himself Emperor of the French, combining revolutionary principles with authoritarian rule. His legal reforms, particularly the Napoleonic Code, had a lasting impact on French and global legal systems. Napoleon's ambitions plunged Europe into a series of wars that reshaped the continent. While he achieved remarkable victories, his invasion of Russia in 1812 proved disastrous. Defeated by a coalition of European powers, Napoleon was forced into exile in 1814, and again after a brief return in 1815. The Congress of Vienna restored the monarchy, but France could not return to the pre-revolutionary order. The 19th century in France was marked by political instability and rapid social change. Monarchies, empires, and republics followed one another in quick succession. The Industrial Revolution transformed the economy, leading to urbanization, class conflict, and the rise of socialist movements. Revolutions in 1830 and 1848 reflected popular demands for political participation and social reform. The establishment of the Third Republic in 1870 brought greater stability. Despite early challenges, including the Paris Commune, the Republic consolidated democratic institutions, expanded education, and promoted secularism. France also built a vast colonial empire in Africa, Asia, and the Pacific, which increased its global influence but also involved exploitation and violence. The 20th century confronted France with unprecedented challenges. World War I devastated the country, claiming millions of lives and leaving deep psychological scars. Although France emerged victorious, the war weakened its economy and population. World War II proved even more traumatic, as France was defeated by Nazi Germany in 1940 and occupied for 4 years. The collaborationist Vichy regime and the resistance movement left a divided legacy. After liberation in 1944, France rebuilt its institutions and economy. The establishment of the Fifth Republic in 1958 under Charles de Gaulle strengthened executive power and provided political stability. France played a leading role in European integration, becoming a founding member of the European Union. Decolonization reshaped its global role, particularly after the wars in Indochina and Algeria. In recent decades, France has faced new challenges, including economic globalization, immigration, terrorism, and debates over national identity. Nevertheless, it remains a major political, cultural, and diplomatic power. Its history, marked by continuity and rupture, revolution and reform, has deeply influenced not only Europe but the modern world.